Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban have separated. A T quote, "She's devastated and didn't want this to happen."
Incredible mom. Loving, maternal, you know. My wife, Nicole, Mary, is here tonight. I love you, baby girl.
The shocker comes just 4 months after this love fest at the ACMs.
Keith Urban breaks down after losing Nicole Kidman. For 19 years, Keith Urban called Nicole Kidman the love of his life. He said it in interviews. He said it in songs. He said it with tears running down his face on national television. And she believed him. She saved his life when addiction nearly took him from her 4 months into their marriage. She stood by him. She built a family with him, 2 daughters, a home in Nashville, a life that looked, from the outside, like the kind of love story most people only dream about.
We have such a strong, deep bond and love.
That was then. This is now.
I don't think anyone's the perfect anything. I'm not a...
And then he left. On January 6, 2026, their divorce was finalized, and buried in the court documents was a number that tells you everything you need to know about how this ended. 59, Keith Urban agreed to see his daughters, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret, for 59 days a year. Out of 365, Nicole gets the other 306. That is what 19 years of marriage came down to. If you want to understand how a man who once showed up at Nicole Kidman's door at 5 in the morning holding gardenias, a man who wept in interviews just saying her name, ended up agreeing to see his own children less than 2 months out of every year, you need to go back to the beginning.
Nicole Kidman has filed for divorce from Keith Urban after 19 years of marriage.
Keith and Nicole's shocking $325 million split that rocked the movie and music worlds. Now we're tracing the clue.
Because this story did not start with a divorce filing. It started with a phone number that Keith Urban was too afraid to call. Keith and Nicole met in January 2005 at a G-Day USA Gala, an Australian diplomatic event in Los Angeles. Both of them are Australian, both of them were famous, and the attraction, at least on Nicole's side, was immediate. She later admitted she had a crush on him that night, but Keith did not call. Somebody gave him her number, and he kept looking at it for 4 months without dialing. 4 months? He later explained why. "I wasn't in a healthy place. I didn't think she would see anything in me." That was not false modesty. Keith Urban had been battling addiction since the early days of his career. He grew up in an alcoholic household in Whangarei, New Zealand, and later in Caboolture, Australia. His father was an alcoholic, and Keith has been open about inheriting that wiring. In 1998, he checked into Cumberland Heights Treatment Center in Nashville for cocaine addiction. He got clean, built a career, won Grammys, became one of the most respected guitarists in country music, but addiction does not vanish because your career takes off. It waits. He finally called her, and when he showed up on her New York City doorstep at 5 in the morning on her 38th birthday holding a bouquet of gardenias, something shifted in Nicole Kidman. Not just attraction, recognition. Like she knew, even then, that this was the man she had been waiting for, after years of heartbreak. She said later, "That is when I went. This is the man I hope I get to marry." A woman does not say that lightly, not after what Nicole had already been through. Her marriage to Tom Cruise had ended in 2001, and with it, she had gradually lost daily access to her 2 adopted children, Isabella and Connor. She knew what it felt like to love someone and lose everything that came with it. So when she opened that door and saw Keith Urban holding flowers at 5 in the morning, she was not just falling in love, she was deciding to trust again. They got engaged in May 2006 and married a month later in Manly, Australia. Russell Crowe was there, Naomi Watts was there, Hugh Jackman was there. It was a beautiful wedding between 2 people who had both been through enough pain to appreciate what they had found in each other. 4 months later, Keith relapsed. Nicole was in Europe filming a movie, An Ocean Away, and the call she got was every spouse's worst nightmare. The man she had just married, the man she had trusted with the most fragile part of herself, was using again. And what Nicole did next tells you exactly who she was in that marriage. She did not call a lawyer. She did not call a publicist. She got on a plane from Rome, flew home, organized an intervention, and put her husband in rehab. 4 months married, and she was already fighting to keep him alive.
Nicole.
My wife, Nicole, Mary, is here tonight. I love you, baby girl. 4 months into our marriage, my addictions that I'd done really nothing about blew our marriage to smithereens, and I went into the Betty Ford Center. Nick pushed through every negative voice, I'm sure even some of her own, and she chose love.
She told Vanity Fair in 2007, "I'm more than willing to walk it with him. The two of us are very committed to our relationship." But it was painful, deeply painful. "We were in a very, very, very bad, painful place and have managed to step through it." 3 varies. That is not a woman sugarcoating the situation. That is a woman telling you she nearly walked away and chose not to. She chose him again. Keith got sober, he stayed sober, and he wrote a song for Nicole called Thank You and credited her with saving his life more times than anyone can count. For nearly 2 decades, they became one of the most admired couples in entertainment. The kind of couple that made you believe in second chances. On red carpets, they held hands like they meant it. In interviews, Keith would get emotional just trying to describe what she meant to him. When he talked about her, his voice would crack, and you could see he was not performing. He meant every word. When their daughter, Sunday Rose, was born in July 2008, and when Faith Margaret arrived via surrogate in December 2011, they seemed like a family that had beaten every odd stacked against them. 2 people who had been broken by previous lives and somehow found each other and built something worth protecting. But something was shifting. And looking back, the signs were everywhere. In September 2024, Keith appeared on an Australian radio show and was asked about his amazing love story with Nicole. The host asked if he believed in fate. Keith's answer was 2 words, "No idea." Then he pulled off his jacket, visibly uncomfortable, and said, "You never know." Anyway, moving on. In a separate interview earlier that year, he appeared to hang up when asked about Nicole's sex scenes in a film. On Ryan Seacrest's show in July, when Seacrest brought up Keith's 19-year marriage, Keith gave an abrupt, yeah, and killed the conversation dead. These clips resurfaced after the separation was announced in September 2025 and went viral almost overnight. Millions of people watched them and said the same thing. He already knew. Whatever was happening inside that marriage, Keith Urban had already checked out months before anyone else caught on. On September 29, 2025, TMZ broke the news. Keith and Nicole had separated. They had reportedly been living apart since the beginning of summer. The next day, September 30, Nicole filed for divorce in Nashville, citing irreconcilable differences as the reason and listing that same day as the date of separation. Here is what makes that detail important. Multiple sources reported that Nicole did not want the divorce. She had been trying to save the marriage. For months, she had been doing what she had always done, holding on, fighting for it, the same way she had fought when he relapsed 4 months into their wedding. But this time, there was nothing to intervene on. He was not using, he was just gone. The filing was hers, but the leaving was his. Keith had been pulling away for months, and when the distance became undeniable, Nicole made it official. She was not going to wait around for a man who had already left in every way that mattered. And then came the custody fight. And this is where Nicole's history becomes the key to understanding everything. When Nicole divorced Tom Cruise in 2001, she had believed she would maintain a close relationship with Isabella and Connor. That did not happen. Over the years, both children chose to live with their father. Reports have pointed to the influence of the Church of Scientology in that estrangement. Nicole has spoken carefully, but painfully, about how difficult it was to watch that closeness slip away. She once told an interviewer that she would do anything to protect the relationship with her kids. Anything. So when Keith initially asked for equal custody of Sunday Rose and Faith, something broke open inside Nicole that had nothing to do with spite and everything to do with survival. She had already lived through the slow, agonizing loss of 2 children in a previous divorce. She had already felt what it was like to go from tucking your kids in at night to waiting for a phone call that might not come. She was not going to let that happen again. Not with these 2, not this time. According to sources close to the negotiations, Keith's demand for equal time sent her into a spiral because she was afraid of history repeating itself. Keith pushed. Nicole pushed back harder. And according to multiple reports, Keith eventually backed down. His touring schedule made it nearly impossible to argue for equal time. Nicole is a homebody when she is not on set, and when she is working, her daughters can be on set with her. Keith's schedule means backstage at concerts and weeks away on the road. The math did not work in his favor. He knew he could not win in court, so he agreed. 59 days? Keith Urban spent 19 years building a family. He got sober for that family. He wrote songs about that family. He cried in interviews talking about what that family meant to him. And now he sees his daughters for 59 days a year, every other weekend. While Nicole gets 306, the divorce was finalized on January 6, 2026. According to court documents, neither parent would receive child or spousal support. The division of assets was described as roughly equal, but buried in those documents is a detail that made headlines around the world: the so-called cocaine clause. Reports going back years have claimed that Keith and Nicole's prenuptial agreement included a sobriety provision. If Keith stayed sober throughout the marriage, he would receive $600,000 for every year they were married. 19 years of sobriety at $600,000 per year works out to roughly $11.4 million. Some sources put the figure even higher. Neither Keith nor Nicole has confirmed or denied the existence of this clause publicly. But if it is real, it tells you something about the kind of love Nicole Kidman had for Keith Urban. She did not just save his life with an intervention, she built a financial safety net around his sobriety year after year for nearly 2 decades. Whether you call that love or control depends on where you stand. But either way, she never stopped trying to protect him from himself. After the divorce was finalized, Nicole took Sunday Rose and Faith to Sydney for the holidays. She posted a photo on New Year's Eve of herself and her daughters looking out at the water, captioned, "Looking forward into 2026." Keith was not in the photo. He was not in Sydney. He was in Nashville, alone. And then things got worse. In February 2026, reports surfaced that Nicole was being linked to Paul Salem, the chairman of MGM Resorts and a billionaire businessman. Sources close to the situation stressed there was no active romance, that Kidman and Salem had met twice in group settings and had not spent any time alone together. But the headlines were enough. A source close to Keith said he was struggling with the idea of Nicole being connected to anyone so soon, not because he thought she did not have the right, but because it made the ending real in a way that court papers never could. And then, on February 22, 2026, Keith parted ways with his longtime manager, Gary Borman. Borman announced his retirement and said he was shutting down Borman Entertainment, the company that had managed Keith for 25 years. That is a quarter-century of professional partnership, gone within weeks of his marriage ending. His personal life collapsed, his management team dissolved, and his daughters are 306 days a year with their mother. Now let me go back to something I said at the beginning. That podcast interview with producer Don Huff, recorded on January 2nd, 4 days before the divorce was finalized. Keith talked about guitars. He talked about AI. He talked about poetry. He talked about corporate gigs and live performance. He spent almost 2 hours talking about everything except what was actually happening in his life. And at one point, when he received an unexpected birthday gift from a tour mate, he broke down. Tears, on camera. "I've never seen anything like this," he said, wiping his eyes. He was not crying about a gift. He was crying because someone showed him unexpected kindness during the worst period of his life. And that small gesture cracked something open that he had been holding together with everything he had. Anyone who has ever been through real loss knows that feeling. You can hold yourself together through the big moments. It is the small, unexpected tenderness that undoes you. Now, a lot of people in the comments are asking the same question. Who is the bad guy here? And the honest answer is nobody and everybody. Keith Urban spent 19 years being publicly grateful for a woman who saved his life. He credits Nicole with his sobriety. He credits her with his happiness. He credits her with everything good that happened to him since 2006. And then, for reasons neither of them has explained publicly, he pulled away. He stopped engaging when interviewers mentioned her name. He started living separately months before anyone knew. Whatever broke between them, he appears to be the one who broke it. But Nicole is not a villain in this story either. She is a woman who filed for divorce, fought for her daughters, won, and posted a New Year's photo, looking forward without her ex-husband. She did what she needed to do to protect herself and the 2 girls she was not willing to lose. And given what happened with Tom Cruise, given the children she already lost access to in that divorce, you cannot blame her for fighting as hard as she did this time. She was not being vindictive. She was being a mother who had learned the hardest lesson of her life once and refused to learn it again. The person I keep thinking about is Keith Urban sitting in that podcast studio on January 2, talking about being none of the voices in my head, while the ink on his divorce papers was still wet, talking about simplifying everything, reading poetry instead of listening to music. That is not a man who has moved on. That is a man who is trying to figure out who he is without the woman who defined him for 2 decades. He once said in an interview years ago that Nicole taught him what love actually meant, that before her, he did not understand it. He just performed it. She taught him the real thing, and now the real thing is gone. His kids are with their mother for 306 days a year. His management team has dissolved. His ex-wife is being linked to a billionaire, and he is in Nashville talking about awareness and simplicity and being the one who listens. 59 days. That is what Keith Urban gets now. 59 days a year with Sunday Rose and Faith. The rest of the time, he is the voice on the other end of a phone call, the face on a video screen, the dad who shows up every other weekend. And for a man who entered rehab 4 months into his marriage because his wife loved him enough to save his life, that number has to feel like the price of everything he failed to hold on to. Nicole Kidman is looking forward into 2026. Keith Urban is trying to figure out who he is inside of it. And somewhere in between, 2 teenage girls are learning what it looks like when love is not enough. We covered Nicole Kidman's side of her relationship with Tom Cruise in detail in a previous video. If you missed it, that one is on your screen right now. Because what she went through in that marriage explains exactly why she fought so hard to keep her daughters this time.